Your body may currently be the most fragile system you own. And that sounds strange because most people think about fragility financially. They worry about their savings, their jobs. But none of this matter very much if the physical structure carrying you through that future is deteriorating. And this is why I want to speak about Saturn. Saturn is now moving through Aries, actually since February 2026. And astrologically, I read this transit as confrontation between structure and life force. Aries wants to move, to initiate, to penetrate life, to act. And Saturn asks, what structure is carrying that action? Because desire without structure burns out. Ambition without structure collapses. Freedom without structures become dependency. And the future you are physically incapable of carrying is not really freedom. So stop treating health as a hobby. Stop treating your body as something you repaired only when it starts hurting. Start looking at it like an engineering project. What is the foundation? Where is the weakness? What is compensating for what? Where is energy leaking? What part of the structure has never been properly loaded? Ask, what dependency have you normalized simply because everybody else has normalized it? Belly? Acne? Because Saturn doesn't care very much about appearances. You can look impressive and still be structurally weak. You know it. You see them. You could have large muscles and terrible metabolic health. You can be thin and still have poor bone density. You could be sexually stimulated every day and still have very little biological reserve, depleted. You can have access to the best healthcare in the world and still be completely dependent on somebody else maintaining your organism for you. And this is where the Saturnian question becomes brutal. What can your body actually do? Not what does it look like. What can it carry? How quickly can it recover? How well does it respond to pressure? How much life is available inside it? Vitality, not longevity only. Because the sovereign future I keep speaking about requires sovereign vessel. So let's start with a biological audit. Because Saturn begins with reality. That is why I associated Saturn with audit. Not punishment, not doom or punishment. Reality. Saturn asks you to stop negotiating with what is already obvious. Maybe you have been walking exhausted for years. Maybe your back hurts every morning. Maybe you cannot climb stairs without becoming breathless. Maybe your joints constantly aches. Maybe your sexual function has changed and you still go with it. It's normal. Maybe you have lost muscle. Maybe your waist has gradually expanded. Maybe you are relying on caffeine simply to produce a normal level of energy. Maybe you cannot sleep without some external aid. Maybe stress has become your permanent baseline. Let's go, let's go. Maybe you are 35 and are already moving like somebody much older. And instead of asking why, you adapted your expectations downward. This is one of the most dangerous things human beings do. We normalize decline. We say, I'm getting older. That's just stress. Everybody has this. My father had the same thing. I don't have time. And Saturn says, no. Measure it. Look at it. Put structure around it. If the numbers are bad, see the numbers. If the strength is disappearing, test the strength. If you cannot move properly, confront the movement. If something hurts repeatedly, investigate it rather than continuously silencing the signal. Because awareness without action is another form of avoidance, And this is where Aries become important. Saturn in Aries is going to be with us for the next 2 years. Saturn in Aries is not asking for endless analysis. It eventually demands action. Do something, lift something, change something, remove something, or build. Repeat it long enough that your biology has no option except to adapt. The gym become your best friend. The other good habit that you are building every day is part of your work. But let's speak now about your body, because it's not just decoration. Modern health culture become obsessed with appearance, Botox, body fat ups, shoulders, skin, hair, before and after photographs, and I understand why. The exterior gives us information, but appearance is only the surface of the structure. Beautiful building, but inside? A building can have beautiful glass on the outside and rotten foundation underneath. The same is true of a man. The real architecture is deeper. Your bones, your connective tissues, your muscles, your cardiovascular capacity, your metabolic flexibility, your nervous system, all ruled by Saturn. Your ability to recover, not just from falling down, but with what happens psychologically in your life, your ability to tolerate physical pressure without collapsing. This is why I think muscles become increasingly important as we age. Not because every man needs to become a bodybuilder. Muscle is infrastructure. It helps you move weights. It protects joints. It supports glucose disposal. It gives you physical reserve when illness or stress arrives. It's not just appearance. It's not luxury. It's your foundation. And underneath the muscle is the skeleton. That is deeply Saturnian to me. The skeleton doesn't care about your Instagram image, about your wrinkles. It is the hidden architecture that carries everything. And bone is not dead material. It responds to load. You give the body a reason to maintain structure, and the body responds. This is why resistance training matters so much. Not endless punishment, progressive load, intelligent stress, recovery, then load again. That is Saturn. Saturn doesn't build through excitement. Hey, let's go now. You need to sweat it out. Saturn builds through repetition. One session means almost nothing. One healthy meal means almost nothing. You just saved on one meal. 1 week of discipline means almost nothing. The power comes from accumulation. Month after month, year after year. And suddenly, what looked like a boring routine become an extraordinary physical asset. That is how Saturn creates power. Slowly enough that the impatient person abandons it. Number 3, load is information. Think about what happens when you lift a weight. You place the organism under controlled stress. The body receives information. The environment now requires more from me. And if the stimulus is appropriate and you recover adequately, the body begins adapting. Muscle changes. Neurological efficiency changes. Bone receives mechanical stimulus. Connective tissues gradually adapt. Your relationship with pressure changes. This is an important idea because modern life constantly tries to remove load. We created an environment where it is increasingly possible to survive while asking almost nothing physically from the organism. It's crazy. And then we are surprised when the organism becomes weak. The body is extremely intelligent. People can now live longer without doing nothing, just being on medical and comfort and devices that gives them life but not potency. It does not maintain expensive tissue simply because you think muscle looks attractive. It maintains what the environment repeatedly demands. So if your environment demands sitting, scrolling, and consuming, the body adapts perfectly to that environment. The problem is that you may later ask that same body to carry you through stress, illness, aging, travel, economic disruption, physical danger, sexual performance, or simply another 40 years of life. And suddenly, there is no reserve. This is what I mean by biological fragility. You optimize yourself for comfort, not capacity. Saturn reverses that equation. It asks, what control difficulty do I need to range reduce so the organism has the reason to become stronger? That may be resistance training, walking, carrying, climbing, mobility, balance, cardiovascular work, sleeping consistently instead of treating sleep as wasted time, eating food that actually provides the material from which the structure is rebuilt. The specific protocol will vary from person to person, but the principle is universal. The body adapts to what you repeatedly ask from it. So start asking for more intelligently. Number 4, stop worshiping supplements. This is also where I think many people completely invert the hierarchy. They start with supplements, magnesium, vitamin D, zinc, creatine, peptides, hormones, nootropics. I was like this. Whatever is fashionable this month. And some of those things can absolutely have a place. But Saturn asks for foundation before decoration. You cannot supplement your way out of chronic sleep deprivation. You cannot compensate 4 years of metabolic overload with one powder. You cannot build a powerful nervous system while continuously living inside an environment that keeps you activated 24 hours a day. And you cannot expect a pill to replace a signal created when a human body has to move against gravity. Saturn asks, what is primary? Sleep, movement, load, nutrition, recovery, sunlight, and circadian structure, stress regulation, relationships, environment. Then we can discuss optimization. But optimization of a broken foundation is often just expensive decoration. And I say this as someone who is fascinated by optimization. I experiment, I measure, want to understand hormones, metabolism, recovery, nutrition. But the deeper I go, the more I return to very simple things. The organism wants rhythm. It wants movement. It wants adequate nourishment. It wants darkness at night. It wants enough recovery between stresses, meaningful physical demand. The complexity comes afterward. Number 5, I want to speak about the metabolic sovereignty, because here we go to speak about energy, because you cannot speak about sovereignty with a body that requires constant stimulation simply to function. If every morning begins with, I need something to wake me up, every afternoon becomes, I need something to keep me going, every evening becomes, I need something to calm me down, then your nervous system may be living between artificial acceleration and artificial braking. That is not the kind of energy I'm interested in. I want energy that comes from organism functioning well. You wake and there is something available. You train and you recover. You eat and the food becomes usable energy. You encounter stress and eventually return to baseline. You travel and adapt. You sleep badly one night and the entire system does not collapse. That is reserve capacity. And I think reserve capacity is one of the best definitions of health, not perfection. I mean capacity beyond immediate demand. Your heart can produce more than you currently require. Your muscle can carry more than daily life demands. Your nervous system can absorb more stress than today's environment is applying. Your finances can absorb an unexpected expense. Your psychology can absorb disappointment. Do you see how similar those systems are? Because sovereignty is always about reserve. When there is no reserve, every small shock becomes an emergency. Market fell in 2%. Oh my God! And metabolically, this is what I want people to begin observing. How stable is your energy? How dependent are you on stimulation? How quickly do you recover? What happened if you miss a meal? When you travel? What happened? What happened when you train hard? Or what happened after emotional stress? After sexual activity? How quickly does your organism come home? That tells me much more about vitality than simply how motivated you feel today. Number 6, let's speak about Saturn and my own architecture, because Saturn is a very important planet for everyone, but for me, it's sitting in the 8th house, the house of transformation, the house of Scorpio, and it forms a difficult relationship with Chiron, my Chiron in the 5th house. So throughout my life, Saturn has not only appeared through discipline and responsibility, it has confronted me through vulnerability, shame, exposure, trust, intimacy, issues with intimacy, the fear of expressing something that does not fit the accepted structure, norm, society. And strangely, technology has become part of the medicine, thanks God. Thanks God to technology. Because things I once found difficult to articulate privately, I can now speak about publicly. I can create, record, publish, build communities online, around subjects that once existed almost entirely inside me. Check the Quiet Fire, another channel, link below. So I don't interpret Saturn merely as restriction. Saturn can create the container that finally allows something dangerous inside you to become usable. And that is exactly what happens with the body. You cannot unleash enormous physical force without structure. Because think about it, a powerful muscle attached to an unstable joint is not power. It is injury waiting for timing. Intensity without recovery is not discipline. Training every day? It is self-destruction. Sexual desire without nervous system regulation is not necessarily potency. I know so many people just want to fuck but are depleted. Ambition without boundaries is not sovereignty. The container matters. That is Saturn. This is your recipient. This is the vessel. And maybe that is one of the deeper lessons of Saturn in Aries. Your fire needs architecture. And before we go, I want to speak about Bitcoin analogy. Because even when I look at Bitcoin astrologically, I see similar principle. Bitcoin's natal Saturn is in where? In Virgo. So immediately we have this relationship between Saturn and systems, precision, function, architecture. What actually works underneath the ideology? And Saturn in Bitcoin chart sits in tension with outer planets. Did you know? It's opposing Uranus and doing 150 degrees with Neptune. That is fascinating because Bitcoin itself exists inside this contradiction. Structure versus disruption, rules versus decentralization, a fixed architecture operating inside a technological revolution. And the human body is not so different. You need both. Uranus without Saturn becomes chaos. Saturn without Uranus becomes rigidity. You need a structure strong enough to remain stable and adaptable enough to evolve. This is one of the signatures of youth, by the way. The child is falling and stand up again. Adaptability. A young system can absorb information and reorganize quickly to changes. But old man, old system becomes increasingly rigid. This is what is happening to the financial system right now. And aging is not only chronology. There are 40 years old men who are already incredibly rigid, same food, same thinking, same movement, same job, same beliefs, same fear, same stereotypes, same physical limitations. And there are older men who maintain extraordinary adaptability, not simply extending life, extending adaptability inside life. So let's speak about the Saturn protocol and my protocol about it. Because if I were translating Saturn in Aries into a physical protocol, I would make it brutally simple. First, measure the structure. Stop guessing. Know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol markers, know your metabolic markers, know your body composition if useful. Understand your hormonal picture when clinically appropriate. Your testosterone parameter is very important. Know your strength. Know your cardiovascular capacity. Know where you hurt. Know how you sleep. What has changed over the last 5 years? Audit it. Second thing, build muscle. Not vanity muscle, functional tissue. Push, pull, squat, hinge, carry. Build the body progressively. If you are inexperienced, learn technique before chasing load. If you have an injury or medical condition, adapt intelligently instead of using it as either an excuse or an invitation to destroy yourself. And number 3, load the skeleton. Walk, carry, train against resistance. Use impact where appropriate for your body and medical condition. Give the skeleton a reason to remain architecture rather than slowly becoming archaeology. And number 4, protect recovery. Most people brush past it. Training is the signal, but recovery is where adaptation happens. If you continuously train harder while sleeping 5 hours, living in chronic stress, and eating very badly, you are not practicing Saturn. You are practicing stupidity with discipline. Saturn is precision. Know when enough is enough. Remove obvious dependencies. If you cannot function without constant sugar, investigate it. If you cannot sleep without alcohol, investigate it. If you cannot wake up without enormous stimulation, investigate it. If you cannot regulate stress without compulsive sexual behavior or scrolling, food, or substances, investigate it. Do not shame the dependency. Understand what function it is performing. Then build enough internal capacity that you need it less. And number 6, choose. Very important one. This is my favorite one. Choose the environment. This is underestimated. The body, your body, is always responding to environment, to noise, light, temperature, stress, the culture you live, food access, people, the rhythm of the city or the village, the rhythm of your home. Those are screaming around you. You could have the perfect supplement protocol while living inside an environment that continuously dysregulates you. At same point, sovereignty means choosing where your biology performs best. And finally, repeat, repeat, repeat. Don't be bored. Repeat. This is the part nobody can sell you. There is no hack for repetition. There is no supplement for repetition. There is no AI tool that can perform your repetition. AI can educate you, track you, guide you, organize your program, analyze your data, but eventually, you, only you, have to lift the weight. You have to go to bed. You have to choose the food, to chew it. You have to walk, to say no, to recover. You have to become the structure. Now, obviously, nobody is indestructible. We are biological. We age. We are human. We become injured. Eventually, we die. Yes. So when I use the phrase indestructible vessel, I don't mean immortality. I mean a body with enough reserve that life does not break it unnecessarily early. A body capable of carrying your ambition. A body capable of surviving your freedom. Because freedom itself has demands. Travel demands adaptability. Even to be an entrepreneur demands nervous system capacity. Leadership demands energy. Sexuality demands circulation, hormonal health, psychology and presence. You cannot scroll it when you get stimulated. Aging demands muscles. Falls demands bones. Stress demands cardiovascular reserve. And what about change? Demands neurological flexibility. So if you are preparing financially for the future, but ignoring biology, you are preparing half a man. And I think this is going to become increasingly obvious. We are entering a period of extraordinary technological acceleration. AI will make many cognitive tasks easier. Machines will do more. Information will become almost unlimited. And this is the paradox, because the body may become more vulnerable when technology requires less of it. The environment is going to give you fewer reasons to remain physically strong. Just stay on the sofa. Don't move. I will bring everything to you. So you will have to create those reasons deliberately. That is Saturn. Voluntary structure before involuntary consequence. You train before the fall. You build muscle before frailty. You correct the environment before burnout. You confront the symptoms before it becomes the diagnosis. You build resilience while you still have enough vitality to build it. Don't wait. That is the opportunity. So during Saturn transit through Aries for the next 2 years, then it will move another story, always the same Saturnian message on different topic. Now in Aries, I would ask one question. Can the body you have today carry the life force you are planning for tomorrow? Forget athletics for a moment. Forget how old you are supposed to feel. Forget that everybody around you has normalized the belly, the acidity. Look at the structure, your bones, your muscle, your energy, your sleep, your nervous system, and very importantly, your sexuality. Not the need for sex, the real potency for sex, your capacity to recover, your ability to move, to adapt. Where is the weak link? That is where Saturn is asking for work. Not punishment, as they say, but work, repetition, and all what we've said. Because discipline is not there to imprison you. Proper discipline is what eventually gives you freedom. And that is why I believe biological sovereignty belongs inside the same conversation as financial sovereignty, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you believe in. Technological sovereignty and geographical sovereignty, all are important. One system. The body is not another asset in your portfolio. It is the asset carrying the entire portfolio. Without health, nothing works. And if the Saturn transit teaches us anything, let it be this. Build the structure now. Load it, taste it, recover it, refine it, and make your body strong enough to carry the man you are becoming. All links in the description below.